Each and every Angular application has some predefined templates or predefined structure based on the starter templates or from the Angular template. But it's up to us how we manage it and how we structure our Angular application. So let us see in this video how we actually need to structure our Angular application. Hi all, I am Lakshman. As a part of the Angular Best Practice series, today we are going to see one of the basic and most important topic, which is structuring our Angular application in model basis. So the things we will be seeing is, first, it's always our prerequisites, and number two, we'll see how to structure our application in model basis and with some folder structure tips also. So without wasting any time, let's get started. Let us see our prerequisites. It's number one, Node.js, either it is latest version or current version. Number two, it's Angular CLI. If you already have it, it's okay. If you are a new one, kindly install via npm install-g at Angular CLI. And to create your first Angular project, type ng new and your project's name. So you can kickstart your first Angular project. And for the IDE, I'm going to use Visual Studio Code, and we'll be using an Visual Studio extension, which is NX console for for generating our modules and Angular modules and controllers and services, etc. So without wasting any time, let's move on to the next step, which is structuring your Angular application. Let us see how we structure our Angular application. So this is the sample source we are using for our Angular best practice. So you see there was lot of models and lot of files, and this is not actually as structured. So if you able to create an basic Angular application from the Angular CLI, this is the predefined template. What you will get is app components, HTMLs, and all other files except these informations, where you won't have shared models and you won't have the ng other models and all. So what actually we need to do is, we have a source and we have an app and we have assets and environments and so on. The initial step what we need to do is, if we want to create a new page or new shared component, we need to establish one of the two main folders, which is called. So before creating this, I will let me create a branch here. So git flow feature start structure. So it's a best practice. So you use a git flow for any git based applications, so that we could handle our release and all other kind of stuff. So first we need to have two main components. One is called core, which is our core module, which is all the services, all the shared, which is anything constraints to the pipeline, which is services, we need to add it in the core. And we have another folder called shared. What are all the components, irrespective of having multiple components which will be sharing across multiple modules, we could have a shared module. It's better to have core and share module by default if you're kicking starting your initial application architect. So what I am going to do is, I am going to create a, initially there was some kind setups which I have done for app configuration. I would like to move to the core. So it is actually for core app config. So this is the folder. I am gonna move this services to that folder. So you see this is moved to this services folder, and I need to come up, going to create a new core model, or else we could use an RWL, click on generate. So this will give a UI interface for creating and testing how the folder will preview on creation. So currently what I will do is I will get this thing handy, because it initially it may take a bit of time. I want to create core.model.ts, and it started creating the file for me. So I will paste these things, and I will call core modules, where I won't export anything. And what I will do is I will declare, will import the models, and I will specify the providers, which is app, where we could initialize our provider here. Yes. Where it will be coming from the core. So it's better to have this from the core, so we could easily monitor. And if we have any other services, so we can directly declare here, and this core model we can add it in our before the shared model. So whatever the services we will be using in for the core dependencies, we could have it handy. From core/core model, where we have declared our core model here. So this is the core model, and for the shared model we could have some one more header or footer. So we could create a shared component whichever we will be replicating the things. And it's better to, and one of the main things where I could recommend you to is just to create a simple one model per page. If it is a list page, create a list page individually. If it is a entry page, which is a different page, create it create it with a different option, which is create with a different module. So if you could see this, there was an all existing to do list page is already here. So we have added the both entries and its options in the same page. But actually what we could do is we could create a new model called to do entry model, and we could export that, or we could create a component inside a to-do list model, and we can have a embedded options here, so that on the entry it will translate. For the simplistic purpose we have done these options, but for the enterprise level application we need to manage it specifically on module basis. Each page need to be a separate modules, and the models which consist if may have consist of multiple components, you have to have it in a single model, which is, for example, to do. Its to do add list has to be a component here instead of having it in a simple actual page. So likewise, I will prefer you to use Nginx Rocket. So it creates a default and base templates with these options of core and the shared models, and with some default, sorry, with default authentication, lazy loading options as well. And if you are going trying to use it for enterprise, I could prefer you with the NWRL, so which is for an Angular. It's a community build with the mono repo concept of applications, which we could have a single repo for multiple things, and this is for the single applications. So what we are going to do is, we let us create our first new model here, and you can see model. This is a NX console which is provided by the NX options for us to use, but it can pretty much use in any application. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create a new model called, what model we could say, like schema, and it prompts me with options here, and I'm going to create a routing for it. And it will dry run all the commands here, and we could use these dry run options also from our end. Then we could just run it. Takes a bit of time. Let's delete this and generate these options. Modules, schema, and I need routing, so it will be pretty much handy. What all the CLI is available for Angular CLI, you will able to get all the options here. So it will check, and you can see that the NX generate and Angular schema, those options here. I could click run and it will create it. Why we need to build in a model based, actually it is whenever we require it, we could plug in and plug out anytime. So that is the one of the major advantage to build the Angular applications structure with the model basis. So if it is required, we could add it in the Angular model, and we could have a feature flagging concept over there. And let us create a component. So which is schema component. It automatically recognizes my model, and I'm going to use a CSS. You could see I'm going to run it. it's called creator. Then we need a service. For each and every model, it's predefined that we need a model and its component with routing and a service. Because each and every page required some data need to be displayed, right? So that we could use the services there. And we could specify the path here. T/app app schema. So the service is created, and at last resolve was. So okay, we will have it a later. So what we am going to do is I'm going to use the existing components routing here, copy it and paste it here. It has schema model, schema components, it's imported. Schema components, the schema model. So this is the schema. So first, when you create a new model here, first what we need to do is we need to have the routing model at the end of the import so that our routing will get actually work. And I'm going to add the provider schema service from dot schema service. So here what we have done is we have created a new schema model here, and it has a default schema works and its model. So now what we could do is we could just go to our environment, so this is code constant feature, schemas equal to true. And if you go here and come up here, one add schema model, a schema model has been added, and we have a header here. Let's copy it and paste it here as schema schema here. And what we are going to do is in header, I'm going to add a region. If you're going to create some variables inside a code, just it's better to create a region for it. So it helps you to recognize why this variable is created. So feature flags. So what is schema boolean, and in this dot this schema is equal to feature dot schema. So if this is true, this will show. If it is false, it won't show. So we have a feature flag here. We had a created a schema based options a model here, and let us test this. Just copy this path here and start. So it will kickstart our application in local. So let us give some time. So why we need to structure our application? It's because when we are developing an application, we know which more options and which are the codes we assemble to. But there was a default standard in Angular so that each and every application need to be in a model basis. So it helps our application we can individually work on that model if we are developing with a multiple developers, so which makes easy and which makes convenient so that they can match the codes in a get easy and easiest way. And it helps us to understand what is this model against to and why this model comes up here, so it makes easy for you also. And one of the main thing what we need to do was we need to have the routing models for the model basis. If in that's in the case, you could see we have a routing model for schema for this, and for the logging we having a routing model for this. All the routing models is defined in this model, so we could easily understand what are all the routings available for this model. If we have another entity or another logging entry page, we could have a logging slash id, or if we have any other options, logging slash id slash code. We could have multiple routings for that single model, so which helps us to identify whether it is a list, or if id comes up we could change, we could render it in an option. So it's better to have a model based mechanism so we could easily handle our pages and we could smoothly manage our Angular application. So it takes a bit of time. Let us give some time for it. So my application is called builder, so let's test it. It's local 5200. So schema, and let us go to that environment and make it false. Application restart. It's called away. So one of the main advantage of model-based mechanism is we can isolate the dependencies for that model. If you see for this ng model, Angular ng model, I don't need a reactive form here. But for the reactive form options, I don't need the I need the reactive form. So we can import the dependencies which is required for this model to complete. So we could be able to isolate in by those options. I hope, and that's come up to the end of this demo. I think it will be a pretty much long one, but I hope this will be helpful for you. So that wrap up this demo. So now we are able to structure our Angular application. I hope this will be very helpful for you for structuring and how to maintain our Angular application as moving forward. If you like this type of video, then kindly subscribe to the channel. We will be releasing every 1 week a new video, and I have a thumbs up for this video if you sure like it, and share with your friends who's developing Angular application. Until then, I'm Lakshman. Peace out.